Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is another week of streaming. It is Taco Tuesday. It is the day that we most fear and look forward to with these streams. It is the day that we recap whatever nonsense has happened in these United States over the weekend. And let me tell you, there was a lot to cover. Now, I am looking through this stream list, and not a single one of these videos involves Jake Paul or Andrew Tate getting their shit kicked in. And honestly, that's newsworthy. That's politics. That is the healing we need as a nation. But all of that to say, for the most part, my health is also improved. So we shouldn't be coughing nearly as much as we have been, but I say that and I'm about to cough again. So bear with me, but we should make it through the stream. We've been making it through all the other days as well. So today should be actually pretty better. I'd also like to say that the campaign's looking really good. We've been able to attend a couple of events. We've met quite a few people. Our signature gathering is increasing. And overall, things are looking quite good. And that's really the main takeaway, is that things are, in fact, looking good. We should be on the ballot as early as maybe mid-January, because there are a couple of Republican events that we are looking forward to getting a part of. And there might be a couple more protests to show up to. Of course, the thing about protests is who shows up to protests against ICE, against the administration? Democrats. Or at least people who, if they're registered to vote, have probably voted in a Democratic primary once or twice, right? So getting that independent registered vote, that's where it gets a little tricky. All of which is to say, we had a great time, great opportunity. I met the other candidate. His name is Don Leonard. He's running for Congress in the same district, but as a Democrat. He's running against Adam Miller, who is the Democratic Party pick, the establishment pick. Don Leonard is the anti-establishment pick. He is the me on the Democratic side. So hopefully he can undercut Adam Miller, and I can undercut, what's his face, Mike Carey, and we can start having a real general election cycle with two people who are actually giving a damn about, their country. So there are quite a few things that we are working towards. We're going to try and get public speaking events with PSL and other groups along those lines. We're awaiting a response on the various union endorsements. We've already submitted our endorsement packet for AFL-ICO and for Democratic Socialists of America, which obviously DSA, not Republican, but hey, stranger things have happened. It is 2025, going to be 2026, and politics is as nutty as it has always been. So, hello, Anna. Thank you for adding that. And there's a video about the protest. Nice. It's on the playlist somewhere. And I didn't notice that. Oh, Columbus residents protest surge. And you know what, then? Let's just start off our stream with that. Whoops, wrong button. There's our technical difficulty for the day. All right, it's a stream, baby. It's a stream. All right, here's the Columbus protest.
A surge in ICE activity nationwide has prompted protests across the country. In Minneapolis, neighbors gathered outside the state capitol building this weekend to protest the presence of immigration agents in their community. Here in central Ohio, it's much the same. ICE has launched what they're calling Operation Buckeye. So far, they've arrested these 10 people who they say are the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens in Columbus and throughout Ohio. The operation garnering both support and backlash. Tom Bosco joins us this morning with the message from those who say they don't want ICE in their city. Tom?
Yeah. Before we get started, the audacity of calling an Ohio ICE Nazi raid the Operation Buckeye is disgusting. Everything in the state of Ohio is the Buckeyes. Buckeyes this, Buckeyes that. And now our Nazi door-to-door knock. Our Nazi Kristallnacht is also called Operation Buckeye. Fucking disgusting. Hello, Ari. I debated an ex-IDF soldier today. Yikes. How did that go? And how did that even present itself? That's a very interesting opportunity, to say the least. They forgot to mention that they surrounded a school and the teachers had to protect the children. Yeah. Of course they're going to not mention that because that would make this administration look bad and it would somewhat accountable.
Yeah, among those who say that are Columbus City leaders. They came out last week saying that this ICE activity is unwarranted and unnecessary, and they didn't ask for it, and that CPD will not assist federal agents in the execution of those duties. Neighbors as well say they want to see ICE agents out of Central Ohio. I remember those signs. They got together in Westerville. As well say they want to see ICE agents out of Central Ohio.
That's Dawn. This guy is Dawn. They actually got him on video. What? Lucky bastard. That's Dawn. That's crazy. Hey, I wonder if they snuck me in there.
They got together in Westerville last night, angry at what they say are unfair detentions.
I did talk to that guy. I don't know why he had a bunch of fake fantasy weapons, but hey.
Like, this country was literally built on the backs of immigrants every step of the way, and none of us are here. You know, unless you are native to this land, every single one of us is an immigrant in some way, shape, or form.
And then they marched.
Now, that was just one of them.
Wow. I'm going to call a little bit of bias. WSYX ABC 6 Columbus News. You gave my opponent, Don Leonard, airtime. Unintentionally, perhaps, but you gave it to him nonetheless. And I know I spoke to one of your on-site reporters because I was asking for signatures. And then you said, I'm a reporter. And I was like, oh, darn. So, all right. Let's contact. I would like to correct the record. All right. Aside from that, though, the fact that they targeted these 10 people, I have no idea if they're criminals or not. I don't know that this little clip is going to say that they are or aren't, but again, these 10 criminals were doing just fine for however long they've been doing it here. Now all of a sudden it's a big problem. That's my main point.
A number of protests over the weekend, including noisy protests in Dublin outside the hotel. Where demonstrators believe that
Dublin, Ohio is one of the wealthiest parts of Ohio, like one of the wealthiest parts of Ohio. I think Upper Arlington, and then there's like one other place right above it is like the wealthiest, but if you're ever in Ohio and you go to Columbus, just go directly north and you will see more you would think you're in Los Angeles. Like, that's how much wealth you'll see. But point being, ICE is hanging out in Dublin, targeting brown people in Dublin, Ohio, who are probably just working there as the help because rich people are going to hire anybody they can under the sun to do all the work that they don't want to do, which is all of the work, right? So these are probably 10 individuals who were simply doing their jobs in an extremely wealthy part of Ohio and then were targeted by ICE so that these rich motherfuckers in Dublin didn't have to pay them. That's my guess. They keep showing these guys while talking about the protest. Yeah, which is really weird. I mean, but it's Ohio reporting, so do with that what you will.
ICE agents were staying, but the Department of Homeland Security defends the agency's actions, calling the 10 people they arrested in Columbus the worst of the worst, and they are urging those who are here illegally to leave now, and they are offering $1,000 incentives and what they call a free plane ride home to those who are here illegally.
See, in the way that DHS is like, hey, get out of here if you're illegally here, and we'll give you $1,000 to fuck off. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to lure them with $1,000, then you're going to kidnap them and traffic them to Africa or El Salvador, which is what we've been seeing happening a lot. A lot, in fact. We've been talking about it, in fact. So, suffice to say, I'm very proud of my fellow Ohioans. We don't put up with this bullshit. There are plenty of us who are upset with the way this administration is acting, and ICE and all this other fun stuff. So Ohio might be red on paper, and let me tell you, it's definitely red on paper. But the constituency, the voters, the people, the citizens are probably not as blood red as they think they are. And that's the thing that makes all of this reassuring. That's why you can run in this country or in this state as a Republican, but actually espouse left-leaning ideology, or what is now considered left-leaning ideology, and actually have reception. Because again, people don't want suffering and hate and discrimination. People want to be able to live and live freely and live well. And that is what we need to fight for. So, Midwest nice until we see ice. And that was actually one of the slogans that was at that protest. So that's pretty awesome. All right, now this is a great start to the stream. I'm very happy with that. Let's get into Democracy Now.
This is Democracy
Amy
Now,
Goodman with
democracynow.org.
Democracy Now, the War and Peace Report.
The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn now to the extraordinary case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland dad who first made headlines in March.
So this was aired 4 days ago, right? So that's, I wonder actually how do they do it? Go like 24 hours yesterday? Okay, so Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday. So this was literally the day after our stream. This was aired. So that means as soon as he was freed and as soon as he was brought back in and as soon as the judges said, stop targeting this man, they started targeting this man.
When he was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, where he was held in the notorious Secot mega prison. In June, he was returned to the United States, but his ordeal continued as the Trump administration threatened to deport him, first to Uganda, then to Eswatini and Liberia, 3 African countries he has no ties to. Well, last week, a federal
Which is why it's not a deportation, it's trafficking.
Judge ordered him released from an ICE jail in Pennsylvania. Abrego Garcia spoke to supporters after he reunited with his family.
Yesterday, after my release, the first thing I did, and the only thing I did, was enjoy time with my family. These are times we're living in, Christmas time, a time when harmony, love, and peace are paramount. Being with family is love, and that is what I did. I was with my family, who mean everything to me. I stand here before you, and the fight will continue. I will remain standing. I will not bow my head to anyone. I will always stand against all the injustices this government has committed. No matter what this government says, in the end, I still believe this is a country of laws, a country of justice, and we will put an end to all this injustice.
Well, he is right about that. And you know, good for him, because he could easily be radicalized into hating America and this, that, and the other, right? But instead, he's saying this is still a country worth fighting for. This is still a country worth living in. And this is still a nation of laws, even if we are in a time of lawlessness and darkness. So, quite frankly, power to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because what a man. Like, significantly... There are people who have gone through significantly less who would have turned their backs on this country, fled, left the country in one way, form, or fashion, or started denouncing it outright. And Kilmar is not doing that. So, quite impressed. Honestly, I really hope he continues to fight. I continue to hope that he continues to get positive public recognition and that he continues to get the support that he deserves, because being a target of the federal government is not fun. It is not something easy to weather or to bear. And the fact that he has made it this far is, I mean, nothing short of miraculous. Let's see. I raised Israeli leaders saying there are no uninvolved civilians, calling Palestinians Amalek. He dismissed it as crazy politicians. When pressed, he said Amalek was a metaphor for inner struggle in the Bible, and then cited the defense minister calling Palestinians human animals. He first claimed it was a mistranslation and then admitted it was literal, but said it means savages in context. Yeah, no. So you debated a Nazi. That's exactly what I would expect a Nazi to say. Wow. So, I think that's pretty much... Let's keep Kilmar in the news. Let's keep him in our streams as we do. But it seems like, he is not out of the water yet. It looks like we got a couple of JFK Kennedy renaming.
With President Trump pushing to remake Washington, D.C. in his own image, the president's hand-picked board at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts now voting to add his name to the storied cultural institution and living memorial to the 35th president, John F. Kennedy. The center's website quickly updated to reflect the change.
I was surprised by it. I was honored by it.
The president overhauled the center.
Yeah, I'm sure he was surprised by it after he handpicked the new committee of the Kennedy Center. Also, I don't understand, No, I mean, I obviously do understand. Trump is a narcissist, and he is trying to rebrand this country as his, and it's just deeply disturbing how very little pushback he is getting and how many people are still willing to bend the knee for him. It's just, I'm not understanding what draws people to him instead of trying to throw him under the bus. Again, he's only as powerful as people allow him to be. And considering no other president has been allowed to do the shit that he's doing, clearly it's not the office itself that's causing it. It's the fact that there are so many complicit individuals at every level of office and across the several states that are empowering this administration. So a question still remains, why aren't enough people standing up and undermining those who are complicit? It boggles my mind, and I ask it every single day we stream, and I continue to ask myself. But let's carry on with the story.
Board in February, appointing allies who quickly installed him as chairman. A center spokesperson says the move recognizes the, quote, current chairman saved the institution from financial ruin and physical destruction, a reference to Congress allocating more than $250 million last summer for repairs and maintenance at the center.
So they spared the $250 million to repair the Kennedy Center, but he immediately started demolishing the East Wing without approval or any sort of proper paperwork or authorizations. And just,
which opened in 1971. The center saying the vote was unanimous. But several members of Congress who are on the board but don't typically vote say they were shut out, including Democratic Representative Joyce Beatty.
I was not allowed to vote because I was muted. I would not have supported this.
Beatty and 5 other Democratic lawmakers on the board call the move illegal, saying in a statement, quote, federal law established the center as a memorial to President Kennedy and prohibits changing its name without congressional action.
And that's just kind of my point. No matter how big or small the action is, this administration is acting unilaterally with its own authority, which it doesn't have. It's acting outside of its law, out of its mandate, out of its purview, out of its designation according to the Constitution or federal law that has been established. And nobody, not these 5 Democrats, not any of the Democrats, not even some of the more constitutional hardliner conservatives are calling them out. This is low-hanging fruit. No, you cannot rename the Kennedy Center. I don't give a shit how many of your sycophants you put on the board. You can't rename it because that's the fucking law. And you're not Congress. You're the president. You just can't do whatever you want. And yet, this is yet another example of the administration doing whatever the fuck it wants with impunity. And then Aries' debate just became more and more tilting at windmills with the Nazi piece of shit. Which, kudos to you for doing the debate, I suppose. I'm not going to debate a Nazi because that suggests that a Nazi has a platform worthy of debating.
Only Congress can rename the Kennedy Center. The wannabe king and his sycophantic minions can't do it.
Members...
Buddy, if you're calling him a wannabe king and his sycophantic minions, then fucking impeach the man. Stop approving every single one of his appointees. Stop rubber stamping every single one of his policy provisions. Dude, Jeffries, I don't know if you realize this, but you're a U.S., isn't he a senator? He's a senator, right? He's a United States senator. Like, dude, you're not being invited to speak on CNN or NBC because you're a famous black man. You're being you're being invited to speak on these shows because you're a U.S. senator and you're the minority leader. Maybe that makes him Congress then. Now I don't remember. Okay. Jeffries. Representative Jeffries. Sorry. House of Representatives. I keep getting him confused. Anyway. So he's the minority leader of, that's a weird way of saying it, but the Democrats are the minority. He's the leader of the Democrats. He's the minority leader. Anyway, he's not being invited to speak on these news deals because he's a famous, celebrity. He's the minority leader of the Democrats of Congress. And he has about as much leadership and strength and fortitude as a wet paper bag in the middle of a hurricane. The Supreme Court just ruled against Trump on National Guard deployments. Yeah, I did see that, and I think we are actually going to cover that in this stream a little bit. But the Supreme Court has continuously ruled against Trump on the National Guard deployments, as have state Supreme Courts, as have the governors of those states. And he deploys them anyway, so it is what it is. Yeah, Ari, that guy just is an absolute piece of work. Absolutely, yep. Okay, so Jeffries is a clown, and it just all bark. Literally, only bark. And not even then with good bark.
Backlash continues over the Trump administration's push to rename the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Renaming the Kennedy Center takes an act of Congress, but it appears the administration is moving forward with the change anyway.
Which, imagine being a reporter that says, doing this requires an act of Congress, but apparently the administration is doing it anyway, and then not immediately vehemently condemning that or calling on Congress to impeach him and stop him. Like, imagine that. Imagine the news saying, yeah, he can't do this, but I guess he's doing it anyway. Like, imagine if this was Biden. Imagine if this was Obama. Imagine if this was Trump the first term. Imagine if this was Bush or Clinton or Bush or Reagan. He wouldn't have let Reagan do this, and he was the Republican Messiah at the time. So why is it that Trump is allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants, while everybody says you can't do that? Are you kidding me?
News 4's Jessica Albert attended a protest held outside the iconic building this morning, led by people who plan to fight the name change.
The people.
Okay, if the people protesting are trying to fight it, but Congress isn't willing to fight it, then what do they think they're going to accomplish, right? Here's the thing, and I'm not discrediting protest. I was at a protest this Saturday, no less. Space Marathon, thanks for the follow. I just truly don't understand that. How is it that protesters are taking the initiative on behalf of Congress when Congress is the one who should be able to say no outright? And the fact that the Kennedy Center is just complying with it regardless. It's like, doesn't Congress have the ability, the authority to be like, no, change it back? So why aren't they? Like, again, why is Congress ceding its power to the president? Or at least to this president? That's really the question we really need to be asking most, and then demanding our congresspeople to answer.
United will never be defeated.
They gathered and they protested outside what the Trump administration is now calling the Trump Kennedy Center.
This building belongs to the American people, and these folks know it.
Bear with me for a moment.
At first, it appeared Kennedy Center staff and security would only allow a handful of demonstrators to protest in front of the building, but eventually the full group was allowed to march. The demonstration drew in about 100 people and was led by Mallory Miller, who formed a group called Hands Off the Arts earlier this year. She used to work at the Kennedy Center.
I was fired for organizing my union in August.
All right, Anna, write down this name. We're gonna try and get a hold of her. Hands Off the Arts, because although she might be focused primarily in DC, I bet she's gonna be a good person to know once we're in Congress.
And since then, I've been working to organize the community to take back the Kennedy Center from the Trump administration.
In February, President Trump became chair of the Kennedy Center and handpicked new board members. It was announced Thursday that the board voted to change the name, even though there were other members who are appointed to the board by statute that opposed. Lettering bearing the president's name was added to the building the following day.
Like the fact that they keep acting so swiftly, too. Like anything Trump does, every corrupt act he engages in, it's like he has a bunch of bootlicking bureaucrats ready to go and corrupt construction companies to follow through. Like, again, wouldn't it be the patriotic thing to just deny these orders and deny these contracts and these jobs and just to stand together in solidarity against this blatant abuse of authority? And again, is adding his name to the Kennedy Center a big deal in the grand scheme of things? No, it isn't. It's one of the least important things he could possibly do. The least effectual things he could do in this country, right? It's just putting his name on something. But it's the principle. He continues to go outside of his bounds. He continues to bypass Congress. He continues to violate our public buildings and our institutions. And the Kennedy Center is the latest victim. But he's done it with any number of things. He's done it with trade. He's done it with taxes. He's doing it by trying to instigate war with Venezuela and seizing oil tankers. He's doing it across the board. But the Kennedy Center is just the most blatantly obvious example of he does not respect congressional authority. And he can get away with it this time because there are enough people in Congress ceding their authority to him. Because otherwise we would have seen this happening in 2017 through 2021. And the only reason why we didn't is because Congress stood its ground. But because Congress isn't standing its ground, he is acting like the dictator he's always wanted to be. And that's not okay. That's not a good thing. This is a very, very bad thing. And we really need to keep talking about it. Hello, Space Marathon. Welcome to the stream and welcome to chat.
Administration seems to be bent upon putting gold on everything and his name on everything and smothering the things that we care about.
Renaming the Kennedy Center could face legal challenges because changing the name requires an act of Congress. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen.
I mean, here's the thing. It faces legal challenges. Okay, it should, arguably. But his name's on there. He has already done the thing. The legal challenge is 6 months down the road, maybe, where they force him to take it down. But for the amount of time that it takes for the legal challenge to go through, it's up there instead of being immediately torn down. The fact that it's not being set up and immediately torn down, or that I don't know, all of these federal agents and the National Guard that were deployed didn't stop the construction crew from installing it in the first place. Like, again, consequences, accountability, where are they? Where are they for this administration? And why are we not seeing them?
Holland joined Saturday's protest.
The law that establishes the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts is crystal clear that only John F. Kennedy's name can be as part of this building. So this was a gross violation of the law.
So if it's a again, and I have said this like 30 times now, if it's a gross violation of the law, Senator from Maryland, one of 2, one of 100, why, pray tell, are you not criminally holding him accountable for breaking the law? And why aren't you holding the people who changed it accountable to the law? And the board who was appointed for violating the law? Why? I mean, fine, you're afraid to go after the president. That doesn't mean you can't go after everybody else that conspired to make this happen. And you're not. So, why? The people would love to know why. Okay. Another democracy now.
The Trump administration's announced new measures that could effectively ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth. On Thursday, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Mehmet Oz, who leads Medicaid and Medicare, unveiled a series of new rules targeting hospitals and doctors that provide care to trans youth. One rule would strip Medicaid and Medicare funding for any hospital that provides pediatric gender-affirming care. Kennedy spoke Thursday.
So-called gender-affirming care has inflicted lasting physical and psychological damage on vulnerable young people. This is not medicine, it is malpractice. We're done with junk science.
So, it's malpractice coming from the guy who's an anti-vaxxer, who has a brain worm that actually ate off quite a bit of his brain and is single-handedly ruining medicine and the way we do business in America with medicine, is claiming that is
driven by ideological pursuits, not the well-being of children.
The Dr. Susan...
What about, I don't know, vaccines? Is that for the well-being of children? Or is that also fake news? You fucking clown.
Cressley, president...
Like, and then did he even protest the Kennedy Center thing? I bet he fucking didn't. What a goddamn disgrace to his family name. And I'm not saying that all Kennedys are great, because I'm certain that not most of them are. But, like, unfucking believable. The Queen. Who's the Queen? Her? I guess I didn't see when you posted that. Sorry.
To the American Academy of Pediatrics criticized the new rules, saying, quote, allowing the government to determine which patient groups deserve care sets a dangerous precedent, and children and families will bear the consequences, unquote. The new rules were announced a day after the House narrowly approved a bill that aims to criminalize providing gender-affirming medical care for any transgender person under the age of 18 and subject providers to hefty fines and up to 10 years in prison. This is Democratic Representative Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender member of Congress, speaking to reporters before the anti-trans bill vote Wednesday.
We are 2 legislative days away from the Affordable Care Act tax credits expiring, when millions of people will see their healthcare premiums skyrocket. And GOP leadership, with that deadline fast approaching, has decided to schedule 2 votes on anti-trans bills and precisely 0 votes on extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. They would rather have us focus in and debate a misunderstood and vulnerable 1% of the population, instead of focusing in on the fact that they are raiding everyone's health care in order to pay for tax breaks for the wealthiest 1%.
You know what? Sarah McBride, representative from Delaware. Honestly, I would maybe have been a bit more fiery in my delivery, but that was the coldest delivery of this topic and this issue that I have ever heard. Outstanding, Sarah McBride. I think Sarah McBride has in this at least policy, which I guess is near and dear to her heart, given that she is herself trans, but like, AOC being in the background, she should be ashamed, because AOC wishes she had that level of credibility and enunciation that Sarah just delivered with that. That isn't to say that AOC isn't a good public speaker in her own right, but I don't know. It's just, now that we know what we know about AOC, it's just, it always leaves a bad taste in my mouth listening to her, because it's like, oh, yeah, she's still talking the talk, giving it lip service, but then when it comes push to shove. Anywho. Amy Goodman is the queen. All right, cool. I kind of figured, but I just wasn't sure. Samuel, would you want Trump's administration to have more or less competence, or the same? That's a dangerous question, isn't it? Because if they were less competent, they would be causing even more chaos in the country, if that's possible to even imagine. But if they were significantly more competent, the fascism that we would be seeing would be that much more dangerous and that much more soul-crushing and difficult to overcome. So I guess to answer your question, I would prefer less competence overall, because at least then they would be less harmful, and they would be constantly tripping over themselves and getting in their own way, not being able to push forward the agenda. Unfortunately, there are enough competent individuals in the administration that the overarching agenda is able to move forward, which is why the competent people are in ICE, and that's pretty much it as far as I can tell. Because obviously RFK Jr. in health, and the education secretary undermining our education system, and I don't think I've even heard of Tulsi in the news. Is she even still in the administration? Like, I don't think I've... Is Tulsi Gabbard still in the Trump admin? Apparently, okay. Director of National Intelligence. So I guess she just hasn't made the news lately as an intelligence person, which is fine. But it's like, I guess, to me, Marco Rubio is a competent individual. He's a bastard. He is an extremely hateful piece of garbage, but he's competent. So you have DHS and the Secretary of State, who are two very competent people who are very successful in carrying out their hateful agenda. DHS with terrorizing immigrants in America, and Marco Rubio terrorizing the global south. So, yeah, I would prefer having a less competent administration. All right, Steve, first of all, welcome. Oh, wait, you were up there, too. Sorry. Whoops. Welcome to the stream. I posed this theory. Using back channels, a Russian-China-North Contra Pact tells the EU and Canada that if they invade America and then EU and Canada stay out of it, they pledge to never invade one of their countries and will give them all very favorable trade deals once they have conquered America. That's never going to happen, for one, because any country that invades America with actual intent is probably going to get nuked. I mean, and especially with this administration, nuclear weapons are 1,000% on the table under this administration. And once that happens, I mean, well, we might be streaming, but we might be glowing as we stream. But no, that's just not a thing that'll happen. Not in modern geopolitical and this geopolitical climate. All right. So less political, but nevertheless newsworthy.
Paramount is now beefing up its offer to try and buy Warner Brothers Discovery. The latest twist in this bidding war, with Paramount now guaranteeing the backing of billionaire Larry Ellison. Remember, WBD previously turned down Paramount's offer and is already moving ahead with a deal to sell its TV, movie, and streaming assets to Netflix. And Netflix says it is in direct competition with TikTok, which Larry Ellison is now a partial owner of. Whether or not this new offer will change anything is still TBD. Netflix and Warner Brothers did not return our request for comment. For more, let's bring in NBC's...
Yeah, I don't understand, like, why is Paramount going so hard? Well, actually, we know why, because Jared Kushner was... No. Yes, wasn't it Jared Kushner? His Finn firm was involved in that. Now, granted, they pulled out, so maybe that's not the driving force. But it still could be politically motivated to curry favor with Trump, because Paramount is trying to acquire everything, including the news, whereas Netflix is just trying to acquire all the entertainment side of things. So I guess this is a story worth keeping an eye on. See, but what if mainly China had a way to take the nuke off the board? What if their assets and tech in place to make sure we can't launch any nukes? Well, granted, quantum communications and quantum technology in general is in its infancy stages, especially for military applications. And that's assuming what we know, right? But I'm guessing that if there is some sort of Iron Dome or anti-nuclear array, if such a technology does exist, then it would probably be the United States, Russia, and China who each have their own version of it. Or share it, as strange as that may be. So, you're right, there could be some sort of guarantee, but again, the U.S. military getting invaded, I don't see mainland America getting invaded. I don't see, again, China doesn't have anything to gain from invading America. Neither does Russia, for that matter. None of these countries gain anything by invading America. They just don't. And the reason is because warfare as such is too costly for too little gain, as Russia and Ukraine are finding out, right? If warfare actually made a difference, we would have already been at war. But the thing is, it's who controls the most trade. And China controls 50% of the global market. So why the fuck would they bother wasting their time bombing or invading America? Just because they hate Trump? They can endure Trump. Because Trump can only get elected this time. This is it. This is his last run. And whoever follows suit, even if it is a MAGA type of candidate, is not going to have the same sway or authority or pull or influence as Trump. So once Trump is done, he's done, and the threat of America goes back to its normal threat, which is just imperialism. Unless they get me in office, then they might be a little scared because I'm not going to play games. I am going to sanction Israel. I'm going to dismantle them as a state. I'm going to return all of those lands to Palestine, and I'm going to criminally charge and prosecute everyone in Israel who participated in the genocide. I'm then going to release the Epstein Files that are unredacted and prosecute everyone who's in them. I'm also going to undo this entire administration. Like, we're just going to peel back this entire administration and arrest everybody involved in aiding and abetting it. Like, there is going to be so many trials, so many arrests across the board, from the city all the way up to the national level, of corrupt, complicit individuals who aided and abetted the erosion of democracy and undermining the Constitution. Now, that might be something that China and Russia don't know how to deal with. They might be puckering their assholes when that happens. But that'll be something to deal with then. But to deal with fascism now, I don't think that military intervention is the solution. I don't think any country sees it that way. No other leader sees it that way except for Trump. And if he does actually invade Venezuela, well, then we might have a different story on our hands, but it would still be a proxy war. I still don't see it escalating to the actual United States of America being at a declared war with the actual nation of China.
Entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas. Okay, Chloe, talk to us about the Larry Ellison of it all. He is on both sides of this, from Paramount to TikTok. What more can you tell us?
Sure. So, Ellison, the size of the bid from Paramount Skydance is not changing. But what is, like you just said, is that David Ellison, who runs Paramount Skydance, his father has now come out to guarantee $40 billion of that over $100 billion hostile bid. And remember, Warner Brothers Discovery, they turned that bid down. But will it change now that Larry Ellison has really stepped into the picture in a major way? Warner Brothers Discovery's chairman had said last week that one of the reasons that they had continuously turned down Paramount Skydance wanting to buy the totality of Warner Brothers Discovery, we're not talking just the film studio, but its cable channels too, was that they weren't sure what role Larry Ellison was really going to play in all of this. And when it comes to TikTok, it was just announced last week that Larry Ellison's Oracle is now going to own part of TikTok US. And this is...
Okay, so I get that we're consolidating but, like, 15%. Yeah, that's pretty fucking huge. Wow. Also, Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi? That's not American. Why is a Saudi Arabian company getting 15% of the majority? Okay. What a fucking shit show all this is. Corruption galore. Would the USA right now declare war on Venezuela be unexpected to you? No, it would not. This administration declaring war on Venezuela, I think, is a matter of time. And I think it's going to happen during the midterms of, the primaries of the midterms, or closer to the general election, in a bid to shore up the Republican base. It could be sooner. It could be during the primaries, because maybe there are enough Republican seats that are vulnerable, despite the gerrymandering and despite everything else, that being at war and having strong warrior Congress people who fight war, who support President Warrior, might be in their best interest. So I would say if there is going to be a declaration of war against Venezuela, it'll either happen in the spring or it'll happen in the fall, like September, October timeframe, or March, April timeframe. That's kind of what I would think. But I think it is only going to be an eventuality. It's not a if at this point, because we're seizing oil tankers. We're threatening it, for one. We keep closing off Venezuelan airspace and essentially blockading their waters. We keep murdering their civilians. You don't do these things unless you're trying to instigate war and conflict and justify the activities. That's why the news cycle keeps pestering that fentanyl is a WMD and that Maduro is hiding the WMDs and leading the cartels that are creating the WMDs, right? It's the war on terror all over again, except now it's going to be much, much closer to home. So.
Very significant, because Netflix, I would like to point out, has said that they view TikTok as a major competitor. It's one of the reasons why they want to buy Warner Brothers Studios in the first place. Ellison?
And Chloe, all of this comes as we are seeing a new statement from the editor-in-chief of CBS News. CBS News is owned by Paramount, right? This is related to the controversy surrounding a story that was pulled from 60 Minutes. Take us through what's happening there.
Sure.
Oh, and don't worry, the video that was pulled from 60 Minutes, we are going to be covering that as well. Although, I did see it. But did you actually find the video itself, Anna? Or are we just talking about videos that are covering it? Because we do have videos that cover it.
So Barry Weiss, who is the head of CBS News, she is their editor-in-chief. She is defending her decision.
Okay, where did you find the video then? Can we at least stream it? Is it something that we can at least pop in there as a link?
Decision to put on hold a piece that was supposed to air on 60 Minutes this weekend about the Trump administration's policy of deporting Venezuelan migrants to a very notorious prison. And this is what she said. Barry Weiss writes in a statement, "My job is to make sure that all stories we publish are the best they can be. Holding stories that aren't ready for whatever reason, that they lack sufficient context, or that they are missing critical voices happens every day in every newsroom. I look forward to airing this important piece when it's ready." Many people are worried and saying that perhaps the reason that this story was held is because it was potentially going to be critical of the Trump administration, and that Barry Weiss was giving deference to Trump and the administration. So again, many are wondering, is this an unusual situation here, and how closely linked are Barry Weiss and President Donald Trump?
Which goes back to the thing. How the fuck are we going to have a free press if the free press is capitulating to the president, who's a tyrant in the first place? Guys, this doesn't work that way. All right. Let's just see here.
You may recall.
Oh, good. Awesome. Perfect. Let's see if it'll let me drag the tab over. All right. Yeah, it probably doesn't have the same keyboard shortcuts, right? All right. So, by quoting an ancient law in America, which, imagine that, we only cite the old language when it's convenient for racism and discrimination or kidnapping and trafficking people, right? But the fact that it was immediately challenged anyway, and the administration just kept doing it in the same time instead of being forced by whatever entity would be doing the forcing. I don't really know if it's the U.S. Marshals or the feds or something else, right? But the fact that the administration was told, don't do this, we need to actually check through the law. And they're like, okay, we're going to keep doing this, though, until you tell us to stop. Well, we are telling you to stop. Yeah, well, until you find the legal reasons to tell us to stop. We are telling you there are legal reasons to tell you to stop. Yeah, well, we're going to keep doing it anyway. Like, the fact that this administration got away with and continues to get away with violating human rights and human dignity and decency and undermining our own constitution and laws is disgusting. It's despicable. It is treason. It is a capital offense. And literally nobody's talking about it. Nobody is even pushing that agenda. Okay, well, I think I clicked the bottom-most one, but still, I think we're fine here. So, the reporting is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they are trying to paint that this is, you know, an egregious location and a gross violation by the administration. But at in the same breath, they're saying, oh, Venezuela's oppressive, Venezuela's oppressive. And it's like, come on. Is there any chance of an FBI agent going rogue and revealing the redacted? I mean, in this day and age, apparently not. Which is crazy because Edward Snowden went rogue and revealed how blatantly in violation our own government was in violating our privacy and working with the private sector to do it even better, and had to flee to Russia and is still in Russia for doing so. But now under this administration, we are literally turning into the Fourth Reich, and we don't have anybody whistleblowing, anybody leaking. Like, come on. That just kind of shows the direction we've been heading this entire time. Apparently, you can read the redaction by photocopying the documents because this administration is so stupid. Well, they have to claim oppression in order to seek asylum in the U.S. Okay, that's fair, I guess. And people want out of Venezuela because the U.S. sanctions are killing thousands of people. They had killed 40,000 as of 2019. I see. So, Venezuela is a shithole country because of American imperialism. Got it. Just tracking. I don't think I want to watch the rest of this. I guess I'm just going to get really beside myself. But, I mean, talk about human rights violations. I mean, you're not supposed to abuse prisoners. That's the Geneva Conventions. That's literally the United Nations Charter. That's a crime against humanity. Or a war crime, or both, however you want to phrase it. It's just the fact that it's so brazen. And that we're bragging about it, or rather this country is bragging about it. And that members of this administration are bragging about it. And that it's still happening to this day, just not nearly as publicly. And again, these are innocent people. And again, even being here illegally is a traffic violation equivalent. These aren't felony levels of violations. Being an illegal immigrant is not a felony, and it never has been a felony. It's never going to be a felony. Or else they would make it a felony. I'm shocked this administration hasn't tried to make it a felony. But I guess they don't have to because it's enough for the people that do support them to just say it's illegal and then send the secret police after them and treat them like terrorists. It only gets worse, and they get to that part in the video. They talk about groups that have investigated the claims, and they are real. I mean, I know we should probably play the video on stream because it is being silenced heavily. But I don't know that I have the I think I'm going to crash out if we do. So I do. You know, I will say this. I will say this. Viewer discretion is advised. These videos, this video is going to be extremely triggering and difficult to watch. And this is coming from someone who is actively discussing it and talking about what to do about these issues and how to hold our administration accountable when the time comes, which is unfortunately not happening right now and immediately. So I guess we should watch it, and dictator, like an actual dictator, like an actual honest-to-God dictator who is having a prison the size of a small city to go after criminals, and apparently to be the location for trafficking American immigrants. That kind of a prison. I cannot wait until every one of this administration suffers the same exact fucking fate that they have tried to foist upon others, because they are the true criminals. And that is my vow. That is my motivation for Congress. That is my motivation to get into the White House at this point. Granted, I also want to serve my country. Yes, I still want to make our country livable and worthwhile and something to be proud of, right? I do absolutely want to do those things, but I'd be lying if there wasn't a deep, dark part of me that wanted to watch these pieces of garbage burn and suffer for what they have done, and while having... Doesn't matter even if they were guilty of violent crimes or potentially violent crimes. Sending people... Okay, arresting them in America for being illegal, finding out that they were in fact criminals, and then trafficking them to El Salvador is in no way, form, or fashion following the law. At that point, you try them for their crime in America and send them to an American jail, or deport them back to their main country with that conviction so they can be sent to prison in their own country. But this is literally kidnapping and trafficking of people without due process. Which, are you fucking serious? So they just came up with a checklist, and if they had tattoos, had a name that sounded too gang-like, and a haircut that was too gang-like, that's enough points to make them a Trenderagua? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Tattoos that immigration officers suspected of being gang-related earned 4 points. But criminologists who study...
Which is insane, because do these agents even know what a gang tattoo looks like? Of course not. That's the fucking point. Folks, I said we would watch this video because it needs to be watched, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. By the way, Bukele is a pro-Israeli Palestinian. Shake my head. DHS already admitted that they are racially profiling, and SCOTUS said that was okay. Try to not pause challenge. Yeah, this is worse than Gitmo, and we were waterboarding them, for fuck's sake. And they were, I say they were actual terrorists, but not the... Christino and every single one of those motherfuckers who sent those innocent people to El Salvador are getting Nuremberg-style trials. This administration, of course, and every member of ICE, of course. And then we will be leading the criminal investigation of CCOT, and whether we have to do some sort of aggressive diplomacy with Bukele and El Salvador in order to get that accomplished. I'm not sure what that will necessarily look like, but that was extremely difficult to listen to. That was extremely difficult to see. That was... This was zero. There was no difference between what we just saw in this clip and what the Nazis did to the Jews. whether it was in Poland or whether it was in Germany, whether it was Auschwitz, whether it was Dachau, whether it was whatever. It doesn't matter where it was. The fact of the matter is, this is what the Nazis did. And not only are we doing this on American soil and bragging about it, it's happening across the globe, and we're sending people there who are also bragging about it openly. On news, on international accredited news sources that are then being corroborated by internationally acclaimed and accredited specialists and their students and everything else under the sun corroborating the evidence. And the worst part is to justify the evidence gathering for the court of public opinion, or maybe eventually possibly in a court of law. And the fact that the simple fact that this video and the evidence from this video or corresponds to the video isn't enough to immediately draw charges by the ICC or within the countries that these things are happening, to include in the United States. 252 charges, 252 counts of kidnapping and trafficking to a concentration camp, violating God knows how many national and international laws. Like, the fact that these aren't being immediately triggered is an affront to our democracy. It's an affront to our government system. It's an affront to anything that we should hold dear in this nation as a people. Like, this is just plain malicious intent and behavior. And the fact that there is still not a single ounce of ramification or accountability by anyone in this administration, and that none of the judges, that none of the states, that none of these federal whatever seem to be lifting a single fucking finger to do anything other than maybe give lip service on a 30-second soundbite. Dan Leonard, I think it was Dan Leonard. It is Don. Okay, Don Leonard. Don Leonard, I don't know much about you. You seem like a nice guy. But do you have the violence, the fire, the grit, the fortitude to wage a one-man war against this administration and galvanize an entire people to back you up? Because if you don't, then please don't get in my way. Because that is why I'm running for Congress. I will wage a one-man war against this administration, and I will fight against this administration, and I will fucking win. The difference between me and an AOC and a Jeffries and other people who, give the good showing or the lip service, or are even good public speakers and stand strong on one or two key issues. I don't just stand on one or two key issues. I don't just stand on some of the issues. I stand on every single issue. Every pain, every suffering, every indignity, every anger, every outrage, every injustice is something that I feel deeply myself. Every single mother who has had their child ripped away from them, every single mother who has not been able to afford to feed their children or pay for their bills, every single black woman who has been assaulted or affronted or ignored in the hospitals, every black man who has been targeted and profiled, every indigenous person who has been ridiculed and reviled and picked up by ICE and mistreated and beaten and killed and murdered and had their parts strewn across the fields, every single veteran who is being forced to live in indignity, right? Every single queer person who has suffered pain and ridicule from their family, from their friends, from their peers, who have lost their jobs and their livelihoods, the entire AIDS pandemic, right? Every transgender person who lives in fear today, young, middle, or old. Every single person that is a victim of a hate crime, whether from sexual violence, racial violence, or gender violence. Every single point of suffering, every injustice, every victim of police brutality, every victim of racial profiling, every single one of those 252 men that were sent to CCOT. Their pain is my pain. Their rage is my rage. Their suffering is my suffering. And I don't care that I am a white male and that I don't fall under more than 80% of those demographics and 90% of those demographics. I may not know personally what it is like to be a woman or to be brown in this country, but I do know what suffering is. I do know what rage is, and I do know what injustice is. And I take that upon my own shoulders. I take that upon my own chest. And I will bring that fire and that zeal to Congress and then to the White House, because that is what we need in this country. That is what we need in this country to fight forward and to fight against the lawlessness of this administration and the brazen cruelty and malevolence of this country's ethos. And honestly, the fascism that seems to be strangling nations aside from our own. That might not be the most eloquent speech, but I'm still very shaken from what we just watched. So I apologize. I don't see any other way forward other than by bringing the fight to them and bringing every single fight to them. People will say, oh, pick your battles, pick your battles. No, I picked the entire fucking war. And I will fight with every ounce of strength I have in each and every single one of those battles. And I will bring as many people to the front lines fighting shoulder to shoulder beside me as I fucking can. I don't care what your issue is. I don't care if you want to save the trees, save the whales, save black people, save children, save indigenous women, save queer children, save elderly. I don't give a fuck what your issue is. I don't care what your policy is. We will join together, shoulder to shoulder, and we will overwhelm this administration, the Democrats who are too fucking cowardly to do a goddamn thing about it, and anyone else who decides to get in our fucking way. Nothing less than that will succeed. And that is the reality of our nation today. So, that was a bit, that video. All right. It almost as if we had just gotten done talking about human rights violations and using small spaces as punishment.
For these parents.
Outrage in a northern New York State school district.
I'm here to speak for my grandson, who was put in that box.
Over what families claim is depicted in these photos, a wooden box which appears to be in the corner of a classroom and used as punishment for students.
This is the part that pisses me off the most. Parents can see immediately that sticking little Tommy or Susie in this box is torture, abhorrent, and a gross violation of rights and anything resembling justification and what's the word here? Discipline, right? They can see this box clear as day and be like, nope, that's not okay. We cannot allow that to happen. This is a fucking problem, right? But then they want to celebrate immigrants being kidnapped and trafficked to CCOT, kidnapped and trafficked to Alligator Auschwitz, kidnapped and trafficked into some of the worst detention centers in America, or globally for that matter, and then applaud it. But when it happens to their own, they can see it's plain as day how fucking cruel it is. And see, that selfishness, that lack of introspection, that lack of social awareness, that lack of empathy other than until or unless it happens to me, while still being outraged that it happened to me or mine, but applauding it happening to others. That malevolent cruelty, that is part of what I am talking about. It's not just the administration. It is our own sickness. We are sick as a society because we allow this for people as long as they are brown and foreign. Or black and foreign. But if you're white, or if it's your family member, all of a sudden it's outrageous. Like, we need that energy for humanity as a totality. And the fact that Americans, our society, has devolved so greatly that outrage at something like this isn't universal, no matter who it happens to, is entirely the problem. The problem that enabled the Trump administration to happen not once, but twice, and the second time around to usher in fascism. It's this lack of empathy. It's almost sociopathic behavior and tendencies, except it's a society. It's a cultural issue that needs to be addressed, and I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. Yeah, you can see why the administration wanted the video shelved. Sure, but I mean, it's not like the administration wanted the Epstein Files redacted or not expunged either, and now they're being shown left, right, and center, and the administration is still somehow alive and thriving. I have a question for you. Why do you think the guy who used immigration as an insult is trying to make immigration an issue in order to make hatred for Muslims and thus excuse the killing of Palestinians? Or do you think he genuinely believes immigration is ruining my country through his Zionist thinking? Both. I think it's both. Once you are in that Nazi mindset, it's about justification of your own cruelty and dehumanization, and then pointing out the closest equivalent that you can see to as a comparison in another country or in another place with whom you're debating to justify it. It's just like how we would say, you want to condemn this box for your children, but you don't want to condemn the box that you're putting immigrants in detention centers or in CCOT, right? It's the same principle. We're just doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it to justify Nazis.
Including some who have special needs. Chrissy Onyentahase Jacobs, a parent and former Salmon River Central School District board member, posted the photos to social media, given to her, she says, by teachers who recently left the district.
It broke my heart. When I received those photos, I myself became physically ill.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul calling the allegations alarming, ordering the state's independent education department to rectify this situation. Many parents speaking out at a public meeting Wednesday night.
He explained to us that if you are angry or if you are sad, this is where you go when it's time to calm down.
What was the mood that...
See, and the crazy shit is that corporations have actually created a sort of timeout box, which sometimes they're enclosed, sometimes they're windowed. I have physically seen them, and not just Amazon, but at a Raytheon facility too. Yes, I worked at Raytheon very briefly, and I 100% called them out on their activities and promptly got fired. Point being, these timeout chambers are being normalized in corporations, and now they're being entered into in schools, but in less structured ways. And it's dehumanizing regardless. I mean, let me be very clear on that. It's dehumanizing regardless. But the fact that they are being normalized and that this is just one of the most galling, I don't even know which adjective, that's my problem. Infuriating, galling, disgusting, disturbing example of these doesn't change the fact that this is a normalization process.
That night? A lot of anger, a lot of sadness.
The district superintendent issuing a statement saying at no time was the item depicted in the photographs used by any student at Mohawk School. The district also serves a nearby indigenous tribe.
Oh, the school investigated itself and said it wasn't guilty? Got it.
Leaders calling for the superintendent's removal and an independent investigation.
This is not right at all.
The district's Board of Education announcing an investigation while reassigning the superintendent to home duties pending the outcome. But some community members say the damage is already done. Valerie Castro, NBC News.
Why can't we just... why is it so hard to be decent human beings? I don't understand. That is how we developed civilization in the first place. By coming together and taking care of one another. That's literally how tribes formed, which eventually formed villages, which eventually formed towns, and towns to small cities to cities, cities to city-states, city-states to principalities, principalities to nations, nations to empires until what we have today. So I don't understand how working together is in our core survival DNA as a species, and yet in modern times, it's thrown out the fucking window. Now, I know there are reasons for it. I know capitalism is a driving force behind it. Rugged individualism, separation of the community so that you can compete against one each other in the most ruthless way possible so that the people with money and power can get that much more from you, right? Because if you're working together, you're sharing, not exploiting, right? I get that that's part of it, but this is at a school. This is inventing torture. This is inventing enclosed spaces, the hot box. I mean, these torture devices have been around for as long as, I guess, unfortunately, civilization has been around as well, but against criminals and prisoners. Now we're expanding to our own fucking children? I'm not understanding how capitalist influence is devolving to being malicious and cruel to our children. I don't see that segue, I guess. Right, how about punishing the officials? Yeah, all they did is got rid of the superintendent, not the teachers or the principal or the vice principal or anybody else, right? So the pictures and allegations are just completely made up because obviously we would never do that. But this box isn't even a timeout box. It's a storage box that just happens to have padding in it, and kids would go home and say that they were forced in there as a lark. Yeah. Whew. All right, maybe some good news.
We have breaking news. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked the Trump administration from deploying the National Guard in Illinois. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court ruled they will not allow the White House to deploy National Guard troops to the Chicago area as a legal challenge moves forward. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camila Montoya Galvez.
Isn't the National Guard already in Chicago? What? Like, you can't do that. They're already there. Are you? Oh my God.
Joins us now.
Okay.
Camila, what did the justices say in this decision? And is this sort of a stay or is this on the merits?
Well, to justify his attempts to deploy the National Guard to Chicago, Portland, and Los Angeles and other cities across the country, the President Lindsay has argued that violent protesters are obstructing and interfering with federal immigration operations, including by ICE and Border Patrol, and that the National Guard is needed in these Democratic-led cities to protect immigration agents and also facilities where detainees are held. In this case, specifically focus on the Chicago area attempted deployment, the majority of the High Court has said that the Trump administration actually did not meet the requirements in the federal law it cited to justify the deployment of the Guard there in Illinois. The majority of the court said, and I quote, "Before the president can federalize the Guard under the relevant statute, he likely must have statutory or constitutional authority to execute the laws with the regular military and must be unable with those forces to perform that function. At this preliminary stage, the government has failed to identify a source of authority that would allow the military to execute the laws in Illinois." We should add that the conservative justices, 3 of them dissented, and this does not change the status quo because the deployment of the National Guard to the Chicago area had been blocked previously by lower courts.
You also have some new reporting about how the administration is tossing.
But isn't the national, like, that's the point. The National Guard is still there. I mean, I don't understand this talking point. They're there. Headlines, right? Oh, I thought those were pictures. So right here, National Guard members walk at the U.S. Immigration and ICE Broadview facility in Chicago, October 9th. They're in Chicago. But we're saying you can't be there. They're there. They are already there. So where's your order demanding them to be recalled? For fuck's sake. This is... Oh my God. Like, I just... And my throat is not complying with me. I even ate a cough drop. Oh my goodness gracious. All right. So the Supreme Court is fucking useless.
We are following some breaking news out of Delaware. Law enforcement say a state trooper was killed today during a shooting at a DMV. State police are still investigating, according to a post on X earlier today. The state's governor confirmed the shooter is also dead. The incident happened around 2 p.m. Eastern time. We want to take you now to coverage from our CBS News Philadelphia station from moments ago.
More than one person has been injured in this. Governor Matt Meyer also confirming that the shooter in this incident is dead. So some new information coming in this afternoon when Delaware State Police say an active shooter situation happened at the DMV location here in Wilmington on Hessler Boulevard. I was speaking to a man on the street. His girlfriend works inside that DMV. She was working at the time. She says that someone was pacing inside back and forth, appeared to be a little out of the ordinary, and then when once someone was changing shifts, possibly that Delaware State trooper, that is when the shots were fired. We're working to confirm the events that led up to this, but she heard those shots fired. She ducked. She said she ran, and she ran out of the building and described it as a chaotic situation. As you can imagine, on a Tuesday afternoon in the DMV, it was likely filled with a number of people, whether they were trying to renew their driver's license or register their vehicle, a number of different services that you can have done at the DMV.
We will continue to follow.
Okay, so I don't give a shit. I'm sorry. I have zero sympathy or empathy for any cop that gets killed, any federal agent that gets killed by a civilian at this time. I'm sorry, I don't care. There's not an ounce of empathy in me for them. That being said, the cop is dead and the shooter is dead. So why have you deployed the entire State Department of Federal Law Enforcement, state law enforcement, and local law enforcement to this one place? Like, do you see how many people there were and how many police vehicles there were? Like, why? Why are there so many people? This was clearly an isolated incident and probably an act of passion. That cop was probably a douchebag, got this guy's license revoked or suspended, cost him his job, his wife, his whatever, and he got revenge. Like, that's, again, because we have an idiotic criminal justice system that punishes the poor and allows the rich and powerful to get away scot-free. But this is what? Why are we having all these police and law enforcement show up at this DMV? For what fucking reason? I don't get it. And then armed to the teeth. I think Samuel should not be able to stream. Hope he never will. Well, too late, I guess. Has the USA ever felt less stable in your lifetime, not including 911? Honestly, I didn't feel any sort of way in 911, but I was also, a kid. But yeah, no, I think this year has been the scariest and most dangerous year of my life as an American. And I was in the military. I was active duty in Okinawa while North Korea was sending nuclear missile launches into the ocean to try and threaten and intimidate South Korea. We went to, I think, FPCon 3 or 4 or whatever. Like, we were at that extremely high alert level for a few weeks there. And I have not felt so disturbed about the future of my country or the future of the nation or the state of the nation or of our leadership than I have under this administration. And it's not even just this administration. Look at the governors. Look at some of the mayors. Just engaging in some of the most heinous, corrupt fuckery that you could ever possibly imagine. It's just, no. And right, Anna lived in New York City during 9/11, and that was, and yeah. That never being able to stream meant as a parody on the National Guard already being in Chicago. Oh, yeah, got you. I see. I'm so, by the way, I don't know if you figured this out yet. I'm a terrible streamer. I don't engage with chat very well, I guess. So sometimes you say something and I miss it because the context of it has already gone into the byway. So I apologize. All right, let's move on to something maybe less infuriating.
New this morning, as the DOJ
Epstein.
prepares to release more documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, the department is facing intense criticism over the slow pace of the rollout and the heavy redaction in the initial batch of files. The DOJ says it erred on the side of, quote, over-redaction to protect victims of Epstein. Yesterday, the Justice Department republished a photo taken from Epstein's home that featured an image of President Trump. It was deleted Saturday, but reappeared Sunday, with the DOJ saying it temporarily removed the picture to make sure it didn't show any victims. The heavy redaction.
I mean, considering that Trump is in this fucking guy's desk in a photo binder of lovely mementos and memories, come on.
Actions and drip of the documents release has angered the bipartisan lawmakers behind the Epstein Files legislation. They're now threatening contempt proceedings against Attorney General Pam Bondi. Listen.
But see, they're threatening it. It's obviously contempt. Throw the book at her. What, you guys have the ability to do something about literally any of these issues, and you're choosing to do, if you don't start listening to me, you're gonna find out. I tell you, you're not gonna like it. Like, what are we, 5? Like, are we toddlers shaking our little mouse fists at our parents because they took away our candy? Like, you are congressionally mandated. You are elected by your constituents. You are powerful, influential individuals with the authority to carry out that power.
The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these victims, is to bring inherent contempt against Pam Bondi.
We're building a bipartisan coalition, and it would fine Pam Bondi for every day that she's not releasing these documents.
Joining me now.
Fining. Throw this bitch in prison. Send her to CCOT. Are you seriously? Like, we're gonna fine Pam Bondi. What? $1, 1,000, $1 million? Like, is Pam Bondi individually wealthy? Would she be sponsored by Trump or any of the other billionaires who then would have a vested interest in paying this bitch money so she doesn't release these files? Like, oh my God.
CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. We heard Republican Congressman Thomas Massey, who is also behind pushing this forward, say that the letter of the law and the spirit of the law has been broken, something that many Democrats agree with. What's the recourse here, as you started to see there, what they're going to potentially, what they could do, but they have to have bipartisan support, obviously.
Yes, they must. So, Sarah, good morning to you. What happens is generally the recourse, the remedy, when you're not complying with the law, is in the law itself. The unfortunate thing here is that there is no provision in this law that gives a specific remedy. And so what they have to do, that is Congress, is look for ways in which they could bring enforcement. The law is very clear. The law indicates you have records, communications, you have documents that are to be released. It's called the Transparency Act. It's called that because it really envisions the information coming out to the public. It also says you have 30 days to do so. It also says, Sarah, that after those 30 days, 15 days later, you're to report to Congress with respect to the redactions, the categories of them, why you redacted them, what was the purpose, etc. So what you're looking for is compliance. So what I believe, and they've been floating this, you heard there, either contempt proceedings, impeachment proceedings, but something to bring teeth to the notion that what we said to do in the law, which, by the way, it passed in the House less one vote, right? I mean, there was only one person that didn't vote for it, and unanimous in the Senate. So this is something that the public is screaming for.
Yeah, I want to talk about the 15 or so files that were taken down a day after they were posted, which included a photograph of President Trump, Melania, Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Here's what the DOJ said the reasoning was for pulling down those images. It says, out of an abundance of caution, the Department of Justice temporarily removed the image for further review. After the review, it was determined there was no evidence that any Epstein victims were depicted in the photograph, and it has been reposted without any alteration or redaction. I mean, when you look at this sort of push and pull, it's like they put it out, they take it back, they put it out. What does this tell you about the process they are using to deal with an enormous amount, to be fair, an enormous amount of files and documents?
Yeah, I think there's a concern amongst the public about whether there is a cover-up or whether this is being done in good faith, whether you have Clinton's name mentioned so many times. It's not about politics and who should be mentioned, who shouldn't. It's about complete accountability. The law speaks to who are the government officials and others who were named and who were not. And when you look at this, Sarah, I think it's important very briefly to look at the timeline. Everyone's Clinton, Clinton, Clinton. The reality is that Epstein, the public investigation, began in 2005, right? Clinton served 92 to 2000, and then you look at him actually being accountable in Florida, if you could call it accountability, in 2009. Some believe that he escaped justice in a very significant way, and then, of course, 2019 is ultimately when he was indicted, died a year later. And so I think that if you're going to release it, for law's sake, release it so there are not conspiracy theories. And if you're going to redact it, of course you want to redact sensitive victim information. Of course classified should not be there. It says it in the law itself. But everything else, really, if it's not child pornography, etc., should just be given to the public and let the people decide. And when it comes out in a disjointed way, when it looks like you're preserving and protecting people, I think those are when conspiracy theories are...
I'm trying really hard not to crash out, and I'm telling you right now, it's apparently these videos back to back to back has been the worst combination of not crash out. Anyway, why is this emphasis on releasing it to the public and let the people decide, and not if your name is in these lists and you are in fact found red-handed, smoking gun, culpable, there's enough preponderance of the evidence, there's enough to charge you with, yeah, you fucking did the thing that's bad, that's really, 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 really frowned upon, and oh, by the way, also a heinous crime. Why is that not the emphasis? That if you're in this list and you are clearly being depicted as being a criminal, that we will fucking prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law and hang you out to the public to dry and see whatever the fuck happens to you that way as well. Again, this shouldn't be difficult. This is not rocket science. All right. My website, by the way, my website has an issues page and a shitload of issues. And then you can go to the home page and you can see my 4 main issues. How to get involved, donate, volunteer, right? Stay involved, email address, right? Vote for me, right? That's what you see in most of these politicians' websites. But that's all they are, is pictures of what they've done and maybe a few clips of them speaking out on some of the issues and their events and whatever else, right? Nobody has issues pages. It's like people are hiding the issues, what they stand for. I am not going to do that. I have never done that, and I never will. So, in that vein, Epstein flight logs, public release. So I might want to rename that, but investigation and release of names. Victims shall be placed into immediate witness protection and granted special protection status for the rest of their lives with unfettered access to therapy and any medical support. All names listed on the flight log shall be made immediately publicly available. Any names that are found to be in association with these flights to include pilots, crew, and other personnel on the island shall be similarly made public, right? Domestic considerations, international considerations. I guess we're going to have to expand this because I must have not updated it since it was just about the flight logs. This is going to include her. I'm just going to go ahead and add that to my notes. Website updates. Epstein flight logs to Epstein Files release. But essentially the same thing. I mean, it's the same provisions, right? We want to make sure that if you're here, if you're in the deal, you're gonna get fucked hard. No pun intended. You are going to get the full weight and might of the criminal justice system bludgeoned against you. because that is what we fucking need. So, it's one of my major policy positions in a whole shit list of policy positions that includes things like women's rights, voting rights, even low-hanging fruit like vehicle sales reforms. Like, I am covering as many issues as I can as I come across them, or that are, of course, very necessary. All right. A lot of these videos are basically bitching about lawmakers bitching about the Justice Department, DOJ facing criticism, and then more Epstein files that contain documents of, Trump and Clinton. Shocking. And then, Chuck Schumer. Well, let's see if they actually let him speak.
The top Democrat in the Senate is moving to force the Department of Justice to release all of the Epstein files or face legal consequences. It's in a resolution Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he is introducing as he accuses the Trump administration of withholding evidence in violation of the law. Remember, the DOJ just released a trove of documents related to Epstein after bipartisan legislation compelled them to hand over the records, but only a portion of its investigative files on Epstein and his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell were actually released, including pictures of former President Bill Clinton. A spokesperson for the former president writing in a statement late today, quote, "What the Department of Justice has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear. Someone or something is being protected. We do not know whom, what, or why," end quote. The Justice Department has not returned our request for comment. Let's bring in NBC's Sahil Kapoor. So, Sahil, help us understand these allegations from Chuck Schumer and what could happen next year.
Well, Senator Schumer is trying to crank up the pressure on the Trump administration over the Epstein files by threatening to force a vote to take legal action against the Justice Department for what he calls a blatant disregard of the law that overwhelmingly passed Congress. Schumer says, quote, "The law Congress passed is crystal clear. Release the Epstein files in full so Americans can see the truth. Instead, the Justice Department..."
And again, why is it just the emphasis on the court of public opinion and not the fact that, there needs to be criminal actions and consequences for being in this list? So, let's see. DOJ releases more files with Trump. Okay.
More than 10,000 new files from the Jeffrey Epstein case have been released by the Justice Department. It includes additional photos, emails, and hundreds of video files. Yesterday, President Trump made his first public remarks since the DOJ started releasing new files last week. Despite the bipartisan calls for their complete release, he claims it's a Democratic attempt to deflect from Republican success.
Today, we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships.
Scott MacFarlane has been pouring through the documents and joins us now from our Washington bureau. I mean, Scott, clearly the president doesn't want to talk about this, but it's almost like the slow drip from the DOJ with these redactions is going to draw out how much we do talk about it. Break down what's in this latest release.
I think you crystallized it perfectly there, Lindsay. This is becoming as much a story and an issue of process as it is about the records. This piecemeal patchwork way of releasing the records is infusing the criticism of the administration.
So, remember when you asked me if I want the administration to be more incompetent or less or whatever? This would be the more incompetent part, right? Like, whoever's in charge of the DOJ is absolutely dumb as rocks. And whoever is leading these initiatives is dumber than a box of rocks as well, right? Outstanding. Let's have more stupid people in the Department of Justice and just undermining this administration through sheer stupidity or brazen ignorance, right? But that's the problem. For just because the DOJ is filled with incompetent chuckle fucks, and the fact that DHS isn't is the scary thing. So we might have a successful fascism, but we don't have a good corruption cover-up department. Well, that's great. We don't have the corruption cover-up department, but we have the Nazi Gestapo. It's like, I would rather have neither. I'd rather both be woefully inadequate, but unfortunately, one of them is extremely successful and the other is not. And the one that isn't successful might make it possible to hold this administration accountable sooner, but for how much longer do we have to endure, right? Do I ever update my stance? Yes. Especially as more information comes to light or sometimes I try to take a middle of the road or a less abrasive stance, shall we say. Or sometimes I'm just not as educated on an issue, and so my stance is just ignorant. So whenever I am provided more information, or if I'm just losing my cool, like I have a lot of the ICE provisions where initially just hold them accountable and in the public courts and, charge them, fine them, etc. And now it's, no, you're going to get full Nuremberg style trials with the death penalty at the end of them. So like, you know what I mean? It's like, are they becoming worse? And therefore the punishment and accountability needs to become harsher and less restrained, right? So unfortunately, there are good reasons, and then there are some negative reasons why my policies will change. And the negative reasons are because of the heinous behavior and them needing to be held to a higher degree of accountability. Yes, public transit, I do fundamentally believe should be free, publicly funded, right? If we're already paying for it in our tax dollars, why are we also paying for fare? Oh, look, I'm not going to be lazy. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot, though. I think there's over 50 policies. I think we're up to 60 now. I'm not that politically knowledgeable, but this whole Epstein hiding really makes me believe the U.S. is not a democracy, besides all the donations, corporate influence. Yeah. No, we could have argued that we were a failing democracy, but fundamentally still democratic, like a democracy, right? We were a barely functioning democracy under Biden, but we are definitively a fascist country at this point, like authoritarian, whatever flavor of the month, right? Because sometimes we're more fascist, other times we're more corporatocracy, but suffice to say.
And how it's handling matters, that it's not giving all the records at once, as it was required to do under the federal law. This latest batch that came out overnight while so many of us were sleeping includes thousands of files, but this group includes an awful lot of references to Trump in the paperwork, including a 2020 email sent by the Department of Justice in which a attorney at the agency was telling colleagues or a colleague that Trump's name shows up in the Epstein flight manifest a lot in the 1990s, at least 8 different times. There's also a subpoena that was issued to Mar-a-Lago in 2021 in connection with the Ghislaine Maxwell investigation. Other references to Trump and to Mar-a-Lago in some of the new records. None indicates or alleges any wrongdoing. But there were so many Trump references, the Department of Justice saw fit a few minutes ago, Lindsay, to issue a statement saying that there are many, quote, sensationalistic, unfounded claims about Trump in these records, and that those would have been weaponized previously if there was any wrongdoing. You don't see the Department of Justice issued these types of statements through history where they are giving the appearance, at least the optics, Lindsay, that they're serving as a representative of the president or his defense lawyer versus the people's lawyer, which has been the tradition of the agency.
Certainly we did.
And again, this administration has weaponized the DOJ. How the fuck can you get away with, what's the word that is most correct here? How compromising the DOJ. Like, how can you compromise the DOJ and that not immediately be like, nope, impeached? Like, pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever? Oh, we're going straight to treason charges? I don't understand. Okay. I guess a lot of these videos, I know that there were a lot of these videos that you added here, Anna, but most of them are very, unfortunately, repetitive, so. Oh, welcome back. If we weren't angry enough about government, if we weren't angry enough about corruption and cruelty and fascistic behavior and Nazi behavior, remember how I said that pick your flavor of the month? Some days were more fascist and other days were more corporocratic. Well, what about technocratic? Forgot that one, didn't I? Mea culpa.
Back, tech companies and lobbyists are investing millions of dollars to tackle a new political problem for the industry. That's data centers. Politico reports the centers are becoming toxic with voters. The data centers are essential infrastructure for the growing artificial intelligence industry. The author of that article joins me now. Gabby Miller is a tech reporter for Politico. Gabby, thank you so much for joining us on 24/7 today. We really appreciate your time. So your reporting shows the industry is taking out ads and funding campaigns to put data centers in a positive light. Is it changing the public's perception of it?
Right. Well, it's really to be determined at the moment. But we can see based off what happened in the November elections that this was a very politically potent issue, especially in the Virginia and New Jersey elections. So we saw that was actually...
Yeah, because you're detrimentally impacting poor communities and causing everybody's electric bills to skyrocket because they're sucking up so much energy themselves while poisoning the air for 10 to 15 miles out by using propane generators. Or at least that was in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't remember. Samuel is not in a Christmas spirit. No, can't. This is not putting me in a very festive mood. You are correct. I work at a data center and feel horrible about it. You know what? It's like I said, I was making money at Raytheon, right? I got 2 months or 1 month of pay from Boeing briefly there, right? So it's not like I haven't worked for the military industrial complex. Hell, I served in the military, right? So not that I regret my service. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like we've all worked in places that, hindsight being 2020, we might not have been the good guys, but we got to put food on the table. And obviously in the case of military service, you know, I freely admit that I joined because I fell for the propaganda. I fell for the propaganda when I was 19 years old. And I had a documented IQ of 134 or something stupid like that. So I was a smart guy, and I still fell for the propaganda, enlisted and served my country to fight the enemy terrorists over there for our freedoms over here. I know. But, you know, it happens. And so the only thing that we can do is be better. We can grow as people and learn from our mistakes and be like, yeah, I wanted to serve my country. That's why I enlisted. As soon as I found out that's not what I was doing, I left. Case in point. Try living off of 18 grand a year. No, dude, as soon as I can run for president and actually afford staff, I will pay you a livable salary, and you're going to be my Colorado campaign chair. What propaganda? Felt like superhero. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Our propaganda machine is so great. It's so innocuous that you feel like it's your own idea, or that it's your patriotic duty, or that it's inspiring to do X, Y, and Z. And the fact that the propaganda of today is trying to emulate the same propaganda of 20 years ago, but is failing so miserably because the internet is a thing and social media is a thing. So much so, in fact, that it is counter-propagandizing the propaganda as it comes out. It just proves that, like, this machine is outdated. It is living in whatever year and in whatever generation and hasn't caught up to modern technology or modern society, which is a good thing for the youngest generations, but it's still a bad thing because they're still fucking trying and wasting a lot of resources in the trying. The point is, 18 grand a year used to be a living wage. It's only in the last 5 to 6 that it started not to be. Well, and that's the thing, right? If people are like, well, you can't do this or that to the economy, you would ruin the economy. It's like, okay, if we rolled back the entire economy, every single cost, every single expense to that of 1990, January 1st, but kept wages the same, like what would really change? People would immediately have significantly more spending money, and the cost of goods and living would be significantly better. So tell me how that would be bad for the economy to do that. Well, you can't just do that because it's a global economy and that's communism and socialism. No, the economy is numbers and numbers are math. And if you divide every number by the same common denominator, you fractionally reduce everything equally across the board. Thus, the economy literally stays the same, but the spending power of Americans goes up dramatically. So that in turn would drive the market into growing because people then have money to spend. And if you freeze prices at January 1st, 1990 levels, then the economy can ever only grow from those wage levels. And as those wage levels increase, that standard of living maintains its origins, its frozen in time status, meaning as more and more people enter into the workforce, they still have the same accessibility. No inflation. Well, there might still be inflation in context, but arguably you could ignore inflation. What is inflation? The rising cost of goods, right? Or the artificial market manipulation. So if things are frozen, then there is no inflation. You would have to then manipulate interest rates or tariffs, import taxes or taxes otherwise. And at that point, then it's pretty obvious where the inflation is coming from. I'm just saying. You need to stress that whole an honest day's wage for an honest day's work. Yeah, I 1000% agree, brother. Communism and socialism is good. Maybe not the money emoji. Yeah, I mean, you might want to find a hammer and sickle smile emoji, right? All right, tech firms.
Tied to the affordability costs. So we saw that energy costs were going up, data centers are spreading, and a lot of voters are upset about it. And so this was a winning message, especially for the gubernatorial races with Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill. And so now we're seeing the tech industry and other politicians responding, hoping that they can use this as a blueprint for, a political playbook that they can use in the midterm elections.
And speaking of the midterms, I mean, next year is just around the corner. So how could the midterms shape the future of data centers and the artificial intelligence industry?
Right. Well, like you said at the top, there is a PR problem with these data centers. They're noisy. They're going into different communities all around the country. Right now, we've already seen issues in Virginia. There's a huge backlash. There's, the highest concentration in Virginia of any other state in the country. And, we're seeing that residents don't like this. We've seen companies like Meta after the November elections go on the offense, and they're really pitching these as a boon to the economy. They're bringing lots of jobs, but the fact is that they're actually bringing a very small amount of jobs. So they're bringing a lot of tax cuts to these areas, and a lot of construction jobs, those are temporary jobs that it takes to build them. But to actually run the data centers, there's actually not that many jobs that are involved to run them. So, who is actually benefiting from these? Voters would like to know. And I think right now on the Hill, especially, they are in the process of crafting how to talk to constituents about these data centers who are very concerned about them being in the district. So right now we're seeing, senators and lobbyists and all of them talking to one another, trying to figure out what those talking points will really look like as they head into the midterms.
And I don't know, hear me out. Maybe crazy
leads to any
crazy thought. I know. But hear me out. Hear me out. On the I apparently need to do something about data centers now. So remember how you asked me, do I ever change my policies? Apparently, I need to add a data centers policy provision. Because evidently. Okay. Anyway, so lobbyists and senators and Congress people are meeting on Capitol Hill in Washington over expensive caviar dinners and brunches, talking about how to sell data centers to the people who don't want data centers, who do not see a benefit for the data centers. The fact that the data centers do not provide long-term jobs. Crazy consideration here. Hear me out, I guess. Just spitballing, if you will. Instead of, again, I know how this is going to sound. Hear me out. instead of meeting with data center lobbyists and tech company lobbyists, maybe listen to the fucking people who put you in office in the first place and don't want that shit. Do your fucking jobs as representatives, whether that's of the people as the House of Representatives or of the state as senators. Neither the state nor the people want these data centers because these data centers do not bring any tangible benefits. A bridge would. Where the fuck are the bridge lobbyists? Where are the library lobbyists? The school and the hospital lobbyists? The solar farm array lobbyists? Like, there are an infinite number of things that we could build. Where's the high-speed rail lobbyists? Just throwing that one out there. Where are the lobbyists that would actually benefit the economy, benefit society, benefit the community, actually create long-term jobs, and improve our way of life? No. We're just going to have tech companies and lobbyists build data centers, which largely, once they're up and running, depending on how they're built, they could be fully automated. Like, we have the capability of creating fully automated factories and data centers. I think they're called level 8 robotics facilities or level 8 automation. I mean, we could Google that real quick. I mean, it's not that important to the discussion, but suffice to say, we're talking about a couple dozen jobs, a couple hundred jobs at best for displacing the electricity and utilizing the water of hundreds of thousands of residents. You should put that on your website. You are committed to making sure Americans can do that honest day's work, and also commit to making sure Americans receive an honest, livable wage for that day's honest work. I do have that on my website. There's several of them. Of course, it's hidden by my screen here. One is the America Works program. It's basically a nationwide job board and a job training board. And then there is the universal income, universal housing, insurance, healthcare, education, taxation reforms, and then I put price control reforms, LMNOP, labor reforms. So I have it throughout my policies provision. I have never seen someone hate the system with such passion. Hence why I have nothing against Don Leonard. I really don't. I don't have anything really against Adam Miller, really. But, like, if you're going to be AOC or Bernie Sanders and you're going to talk the talk, but you're not going to walk the walk, but Bernie's been in there for 40 years. Okay. Well, he got threatened by the Hillary campaign, and he's been a bitch since, okay? And AOC has been capitulated as well. So, again, if you are only going to talk the talk and not even attempt to walk the walk, then you're pointless. You're useless. You are taking up space, which is, again, what we have determined is the point and purpose of the Democratic Party. So, no, I have every intention of backing up every single syllable, every letter of every word that I have spoken in any of my speeches, any of my campaigns, or any of my streams. Like that, I am ride or die, baby. Like, I'm either going to survive and make this country something to have pride in for the first time in our history, or I am going to die trying. Period. Dot. That's it. Okay. What's this poll? Oh, affordability.
Americans are once again voicing their concern about the state of the economy as another year wraps up. In the latest CBS News polling, many describe housing and health care as particularly difficult to afford. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and
Housing and health care, two of the most important things for any society to have access to. And that's what people are saying are the most difficult. Like, guys, this is literally the worst economy since COVID. And COVID was a global pandemic that was nobody's fault. And this economy is worse than that. And that was the pinnacle of the worst economy since the Great Depression. And it was worse than the Great Depression. We are worse off than people in the Great Depression. In fact, just to keep it in the Christmas spirit, Tiny Tim from A Christmas Carol said something about living off of only a few pence or shillings a day or whatever, which amounted to like 5,000 pounds a year, which is about $40,000 in today's money. The average American worker, over 60% of Americans who are working, make less than $40,000 a year, are living in poverty, are not housed, are living in their cars. 60% of working Americans are in some strait of poverty. We are worse off as Americans in 2025 than the pinnacle description of abject poverty by Charles Dickens in the 1800s or whenever it was taking place in A Christmas Carol. The very picture of poverty is better off than the average 50% plus one average American worker. Merry Christmas. And Happy New Year to every. What is it? A Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night or something. I'm not a great literary, sorry.
Surveys Anthony Salvanto breaks down all the data and the expectations for the Trump administration come 2026.
With 2025 coming to a close, right now Americans don't give the U.S. economy very good grades. Most give it a C, D, even an F. We know they've told us throughout the year that costs and prices have taken a toll on many wallets. And if we break that down from the latest poll, we see how many people say it's not easy to afford or even difficult to afford things like health care, food, and housing. On the political front, what folks are hearing from the administration right now, they tell us they think the administration, the president, is making things sound better than they really are. That sets up an interesting dynamic going forward into 2026. Will the president's descriptions of the economy meet what voters are feeling as we head into the midterms? But larger context, here's a chart how people rated the economy throughout the year. Most of them saying it was bad. These ratings have been low. Key thing here, these kinds of numbers go back for years. You have to go back before the pandemic to the last time that most Americans said the economy was good. That's about prices and costs. Things got more expensive coming out of the pandemic, and many Americans tell us they're still waiting and hoping for an adjustment to that. And
yeah, remember when we were young and dumb and full of hope and believed the government and our industries that said that, oh, these really high prices are due to the supply chain being disrupted due to the pandemic. Don't worry, this is only temporary pricing. And then it got locked in, and then they kept going up anyway, year over year over year. Yeah. So silly that there were so many people screaming at the top of their lungs that this was a lie and a ploy to normalize extremely high prices, and that this was going to be the new normal, and that it wasn't going to change. Crazy that there were people talking about that stuff and being ridiculed and told that they were liars and fear mongers. It's just so crazy that there were people talking about that back then, and that it's the case still 5 years later. Oh, actually going on 6. Even if I disagree with you on some points, I don't care. I would rather have someone like you in power who is willing to die by their ideals. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, we don't have to agree. Just stick to your fucking convictions. Like, my God, is that hard? Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, so I thought there was something about and to all a good night or whatever. Anywho. Oh, here we go.
There are growing
Here's some
concerns
possible
from
good
some
news.
within the Republican Party after some infighting played out at a national conference of thousands of conservatives in Arizona. On Sunday, Turning Point USA wrapped up its largest meeting since the assassination of its founder, Charlie Kirk. Kirk's widow, Erica.
Are we seriously calling that an assassination? Really? All right, let's look up the Webster's Dictionary definition of an assassination. The action of assassinating someone. Murder an important person in a surprise attack for political or religious reasons. An important person? Was Kirk really an important person? He was a famous person. He was a well-known person. He founded Turning Point USA, but I founded Our Voice USA. So, I mean, important? I mean, are we saying white supremacy and Christian nationalism are important values and ethics and talking points and platforms? Because that's what he was espousing. So no, murder. Charlie Kirk was not assassinated, he was murdered. Because he is not important enough to be designated an important figure worthy of murder being called an assassination. With your girl, Nicki Minaj. Yeah, we're going to get a lot in here.
Opened the event Thursday, and she said the audience might not agree with all of the views they'd be presented with. Here's a sample of what was said over the 4-day conference.
So you may not agree with everyone on this stage this weekend, and that's okay. Welcome to America.
See, okay. I agree with that statement, Miss Kirk, Kirk's wife. Now, you are going to hear things that you don't agree with, and that's okay. Welcome to America. Now, that statement, I really and truly wish everyone from the left of where the Democratic Party is onward would listen to those fucking words. Okay? Leftist infighting needs to stop. Centrists need to work with, well, okay, true centrists, not Republicans who are in denial. Or I'm sorry, conservatives, modern day conservatives. It doesn't matter, right? All I'm saying is agree to disagree and then work towards the common goal, which is to be against fascism. Right now, 10% of our country is fascist and is beating their chest with fascism. Red or blue fascism. They don't care as long as it's their person doing the fascism, right? So maybe it's closer to 20%. Either way, the remaining 80% needs to work together to stop that. And right now, there are 80% of us against that. But out of that 80% who are against fascism, we are not congealing enough to achieve that 3% minimum threshold. And that's the problem. And we need to get the fuck over it. Nicki Minaj is off the rockers. True. We are Charlie Kirk. Oh, God. She lost 10 million followers over the weekend, and she deleted her IG. Wait, who? Nicki Minaj? Or Charlie Kirk's wife? Have you heard the song? What song? Nicki lost 10 million followers. That's funny. Okay. Well, good for her.
Today, the conservative movement is in serious danger. It is in danger, not just from a left that all too frequently excuses everything up to and including murder. The conservative movement is also in danger from charlatans who claim to speak in the name of principle, but actually traffic in conspiracism and dishonesty. I just got here.
Did what? Everything that he just said was indicting his own platform. His platform. Not people like him that say the same thing. His literal platform. He is advocating for the mistreatment and violence against immigrants and celebrating their deaths at the hands of ICE agents. And what was the other thing?
In the name of principle, but actually traffic in conspiracism and dishonesty.
He's one of the leading conspiracy theorists of America. Are you fucking kidding me? The Charlie Kirk song. Oh God, I'm glad I did not hear that. Oh wait, no, I get, okay, that song. I guess I do know that it exists, but no, I have not heard it, and no, I don't intend to listen to it.
I just got here, and I feel like I missed the...
Wait a minute, I thought Tucker Carlson was on the outs. What? He got invited? Okay.
First part of the program, hope I didn't miss anything meaningful. To hear calls for like deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? This is hilarious.
I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform. We have far more important work to do than canceling each other.
CBS News Executive Director of White House and Politics, Finn Gomez, is in Washington covering this. So, Finn, some of the sound bites have gotten a lot of attention. How did things seem to you?
Pretty bad. It got pretty ugly, like WWE, old school WWE ugly. I mean, a lot of insults being hurled at that stage at Turning Point USA's annual America Fest conference that highlighted this rift that you talked about, Lindsay, in the conservative movement that's emerged really since the assassination of the group TPUSA's co-founder Charlie Kirk back in September. Yes, over that 4-day conference, that divide really played out in real life, publicly in real time, with speakers openly attacking one another by name. You saw Ben Shapiro there, the conservative commentator, attacking Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and Megyn Kelly, saying they were promoting conspiracy theories, calling them, quote, frauds and grifters. Shapiro also went after Carlson for what he said was platforming far-right influencer Nick Fuentes, calling Nick Fuentes a, quote, Nazi-loving extremist who should not be given a platform. He's also a Holocaust denier. Steve Bannon fired back in his own remarks, calling Shapiro a, quote, cancer on the conservative movement and warning of a looming power struggle inside Turning Point USA because of him. Many attendees said that the infighting felt new and unsettling without Kirk's unifying presence. But, you know, you did...
If Kirk... Charlie Kirk kept the racists, the white supremacists, the white Christian nationalists, the Nazis, and the fascists together under one common cause of hate and bigotry and discrimination, ensuring that no women will ever be satisfied again, that no minority will ever live in peace again, and that mediocre white men will maintain their status of superior breed and race despite their mediocrity. And now, with his passing, we fragment day by day as the racists, the white supremacists, the ultra-Christian nationalists, the white nationalists, the white supremacists, the Nazis, the neo-Nazis, and the fascisti fragment and sever their ties that were once held together by our Lord, Charlie Kirk. Hey, if killing him actually destroys the alt-right conservative movement that has taken this country by storm, then great. Then that'll be a holiday. Charlie Kirk Death Day is a direct attribution to the collapse of the alt-right movement and fascism in America. That's probably going to get me deplatformed. Okay. Tucker Carlson is playing innocent, just asking questions. He confuses me. Erica wants to be floated so badly she endorsed JD for president. I have a feeling that Trump may not endorse JD. He hates losers. My mom had to do the drinks for a politician. I got shout outs from Nick Fuentes. I blame capitalism. I mean, yeah, this is all capitalism. Anyway. Speaking of...
Erica Kirk, the widow of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, has endorsed Vice President J.D. Vance for president.
I'm sorry. No. This phrase, conservative activist, that bothers me. A person who campaigns to bring about political or social change. See, that's kind of the problem, because that definition implies that Charlie Kirk was, in fact, a conservative activist. But you typically don't hear about activism unless it's trying to save the trees, children, black people, queer people, trans people, indigenous people, the environment, animals, trains, education, schools, libraries, hospitals, nurses. I don't like the fact that the technical definition of activist can apply to suppression and oppressive efforts as well. That's just okay, I guess.
In 2028, Kirk made the announcement during the opening event at the Turning Point USA annual conference. That's the organization her late husband launched. She now runs it. Vance has not publicly announced whether he intends to run in 2028. CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us now. So, Finn, how significant is it that he now has Erica Kirk's support?
It's significant and it's early. Turning Point USA, which has built a massive presence on college campuses and online that gives Republicans something they've long struggled with, a pipeline to younger voters and activists. If you recall...
I thought that's what white supremacy, Ben Shapiro, and... Oh, Charlie Kirk's dead. You're right.
Back in 2024, it was TPUSA and Charlie Kirk that activated and galvanized young voters to turn to the Trump-Vance ticket to ultimately help them and propel them to victory back in November of 2024. So it is significant, but again, it is still very early. We're in December 2025, and this is quite a bit of ways to the November 2028 elections.
We also have some major news, other political news today. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, she announced not only is she suspending her campaign for governor of New York, she's also going to give up her seat in Congress next year. What do we know about this?
Yeah, absolutely. We can report that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has decided not to run for governor, and
because she was abandoned by Trump and MAGA. So there is that. Okie dokie. It's Bride of Chucky. Who wears more eyeliner, Erica or JD? Honestly, that's a great question. Maybe Erica started wearing more eyeliner to seduce JD. And maybe that's also why she's dressed like a couch. Bye, Stefanik. Yeah. Okay, so that's good news that the racists and supremacists and ultranationalists and fascists aren't having a kumbaya gathering anymore. That's great. Whenever they weaken, the world improves. What's this next video?
President Trump announced new agreements today with 9 pharmaceutical companies that are aimed at making certain prescription drugs cheaper. CBS News reporter Karen Waugh is live now from Houston, Texas with more on this. So Karen, what drugs are covered under this announcement and what companies are actually participating?
Hey, Jules, good to be with you. So I want to turn your attention to this list that's coming up on the screen. These are the 9 companies included, and some of the biggest names included among these include Amgen, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Merck. They largely make drugs that treat...
Those drugs don't even sound, or I'm sorry, those companies don't even sound like company names. To be fair, those don't even sound like drug names, but that's more common to drug names than anything else. And these are the companies that are forcing poor people to die because they don't have access to medicine. Like, fuck Gisk, Merck, Novartis, Sanofi, Genentech, Squibb. Well, I guess I can pronounce Gilead, but it's funnier to say Gilead. Like, this is absolute trash. And then the drugs that are covered will include treatments for chronic conditions like diabetes and asthma. Diabetes, by the way, is insulin. And insulin was made free by the people who invented it. And then it was bought by companies to sell to the sick people whose inventors they never wanted to charge. So, didn't he have the same presser a couple months ago for the exact same reason, to announce drug prices going down, and then they didn't?
Certain types of cancers and chronic conditions like HIV, asthma, COPD, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, type 2 diabetes, and other diseases as well. So starting early next year, these 9 companies will sell their medication on Trump RX, the administration's discount drug pricing program.
So, so as long as Trump's name is on it, we don't give a shit if we subsidize healthcare? Is that the thing? Because if Obama's name is on it or affiliated with it, then we can't subsidize it. But if Trump's name is on it, then we can subsidize it? Are you fucking kidding me?
President Trump says he'll give these 9 companies tariff exceptions for 3 years in exchange for the lower prices. The goal is for the drug prices in the U.S. to be the same, if not lower than that of other developed countries, Jules.
Yeah, so I think everyone thinks, okay,
Oh, you know what else developed countries have? Universal health care.
How is this going to affect me in the pocketbook? So how will Medicaid patients feel the difference? And will the cost be passed on to other payers?
Well, unfortunately, Jules, some experts say that actual Medicaid patients are not going to feel much of a price difference with Trump's new program because Medicaid patients aren't the ones paying for drugs out of pocket. It's the states that are. So Trump's new program could save states some money, but it may not necessarily save individuals money. In order to offset these costs, though,
these new policy provisions to lower drug prices aren't going to help people who are paying for the drugs. It's going to help the states who subsidize the paying for drugs. So the state's still going to charge the people the same amount of money, but the state is going to be out of pocket a little bit less. Republican healthcare, baby. Oh, cannabis made the news. What?
The Trump administration this week took steps to potentially reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Right now, it's...
Really? The administration is doing something useful. That's interesting. Funny, because Ohio passed recreational use as legal in Ohio, and now the state legislature has done everything in its power to retract that in every single capacity that it can. But their Lord and Savior, Der Führer, is trying to make it a Schedule 3. Oh, whoops.
Classified as a Schedule 1, meaning there's no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Other drugs in this category include LSD and heroin. The president signed an executive order that would change it to a Schedule 3 substance, which had a, quote, moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. The move could open the door to more research into marijuana. Joining us right now is Dr. Sue Sisley, an internal medicine.
I mean, that's an interesting way to gain popularity and polling in the short term. That I'll give him that. But sure, let's hear what Sue
clinician and
has
principal
to
investigator at the Scottsdale Research Institute in Arizona. Doctor, it is good to see you. First off, you've been studying the possible benefits of psychoactive plants like cannabis or psilocybin mushrooms to treat various chronic conditions since at least 2009, but you often point out regulations at the federal level are antiquated. How has this hampered your research, and how will this reclassification change things?
Yeah, well, our government has impeded cannabis research for 50 years by placing it in Schedule 1. It's completely inappropriate. This drug has very well-defined medical benefits that have been confirmed by over 1,000 different randomized controlled trials published in peer-reviewed journals. So it never belonged in Schedule 1 in the first place. And so this announcement represents a significant step forward where we can finally stop stigmatizing cannabis, start looking at the medical benefits in a more deliberate way, instead of just throwing all the government money to look at the harms of cannabis or only the addiction potential.
Or, I don't know, allowing pharmaceutical companies to run rampant and making billions of dollars off of drugs that make you addicted or aren't as effective as they claim.
I've been following your work since I was a reporter in Phoenix. I visited your operation many times. I recall coming on mail day. I saw you intercept a package of cannabis for research, and you were thrilled that you had that ability, but also I remember the quality wasn't great. I mean, has anything improved, and are you more hopeful that it will now?
Yes, I think we ended up suing in federal court for years and managed to obtain our own federal license from the DEA to cultivate our own real-world cannabis for our studies. So that was already a big breakthrough. But you're right, this announcement hopefully will loosen some of the restrictions around cannabis and stop blocking this work. But ultimately, there won't be any new cannabis research without government money. And so I'm hoping what comes out of this eventually is that maybe President Trump will announce a new moonshot, like Biden had his cancer moonshot. Maybe President Trump will announce a cannabis innovation moonshot where he assigns $2 billion to really begin the innovation process and help physicians. You know, us in the medical community, we need more guidance to understand how to prescribe this medicine, because now that it's in Schedule 3, it does have the potential to receive a prescription. And I hope that a lot of agencies like the veterans hospitals will start making cannabis available as a medicine instead of punishing patients who test positive for this.
Dr. Sue Sisley, please come back. Keep us posted.
Just FYI, in case you're curious, I'm already on top of that. And here's some numbers breakdown of what cannabis can do for our, or hemp can do for our economy. Yeah, and yes, there's medical, this, that, and the other, and maybe I can add a anecdote that add a few lines to the cannabis reform page about investing in medical research. Whatever. Right? Like, a broken clock is correct twice a day. And in this case, I think this might literally be the second thing that Trump has done in this entire administration that isn't a heinous, complete disregard and violation of democracy and the Constitution. Yeah, the reason why I said Führer too accurately is because I'm actually fluent in German. How is this even possible? Richest country on earth, healthcare is expensive as fuck. Because of lobbyists. How could you... Oh, and Nixon. Nixon was the one who passed the law that allowed the privatization of healthcare. Nixon-era law that allowed private healthcare. Health Maintenance Organization Act of 1973. That's the reason why. I'm all for giving everyone in America free weed. Everyone can mellow out. And maybe that's what we fucking need. The DOD did a study in 73 that showed that people who are high on pot are far less likely to involve themselves in acts of conflict like wars. Hey, maybe we should just get all of these world leaders and all of these generals to toke up together and talk about their feelings. Crazy thought. All right. We watched the CCOT episode, but this is about the
60
CCOT
Minutes
episode.
piece pulled by the head of CBS News has now been seen around the world, all because of a streaming slip-up. The story is a deep dive into treatment of Trump deportees at a notorious prison in El Salvador. CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss decided to shelve it, saying that it was not ready. Has been tracking this one. He's got more. Brian, what happened here?
Isn't the internet amazing? That's my takeaway about this story, because this video clip has spread all across the internet. It's on sites like Reddit and Blue Sky and X and even YouTube, although CBS has been trying to get it taken down. What happened is that it's actually pretty common in television when a piece is taped.
They apparently succeeded in getting it taken down on YouTube because we couldn't find a YouTube video of it. Yeah, lock them in a room with a pound of Kush, 9 gallons of Pepsi, and a crate of Cheetos and guitar. I bet they'd find some common ground. All right, Simply Steve, you're the, we're going to put you as Secretary of Defense. maybe your provisions of pro-cannabis use can get us, or maybe that'll be Secretary of State. Either way. The Streisand effect, they tried to bury the story and it got more attention. Exactly. I'm all for giving everyone in America free weed. Everyone can mellow the fuck out. Oh, you typed that twice. I see. Gotcha. Alrighty.
When a show is taped ahead of time, it gets transmitted, it gets delivered to various computer servers. In this case, the finished episode on Friday was delivered to a Canadian TV network called Global TV, because Global TV has the rights to air 60 Minutes in Canada. So the episode was done, as we talked about. People inside CBS thought it was ready to go. So it was delivered to Global TV, and then it popped up on Global TV's streaming app, I think probably automatically and inadvertently, on Monday. Some smart Canadian viewers noticed this on the app. They started recording it off their TV sets, and boom, now the thing is viral, and now the whole world's able to see what all the fuss is about. And when you do watch it, and again, these are bootlegged copies, but when you do watch the report, you see it's a pretty common, pretty ordinary 60 Minutes investigation. It is notable that several of these detainees are interviewed describing torturous conditions at the prison in El Salvador, and I want to make sure we continue to center those perspectives, because that was the point of the report in the first place. Here's what one of those deportees said to correspondent Sharon Alfonsi, quote, "The torture was never ending, interminable. There was blood everywhere, screams, people crying, people who couldn't take it and were urinating or vomiting on themselves." So that's the kind of testimony that's included in this 60 Minutes report that was shelved over the weekend, but not shelved soon enough.
And again, we want to talk about conspiracies and cover-ups. There is no greater conspiracy or cover-up than denying free journalists the free press from reporting on war crimes and crimes against humanity that we conducted by sending them to this place outright. Again, we neither have free speech, we don't have free press, we don't have the right to protest, we certainly don't have the right to bear arms unless you're white. We don't have the right to redress our government because we'll just be beaten or have law enforcement sent to our communities or have the military deployed in our cities. So, like, we don't have a democracy. We are official, like, we are not even a functioning, barely functioning, or a democracy in decline. We are an authoritarian government. Whether we're fascist today or corporatocracy the other day or technocratic the other day, it's still authoritarian. The idea, let's see, hold on. The idea of America ever being communist feels harder to imagine than the end of the world by a lot. Why does everything have to suck? I mean, Anna, I would agree with that. Immortal Technique made me get into conspiracy, but mainly for the USA. See, we used to actually do Conspiracy Fridays where we would just talk about aliens and cryptids and all that fun stuff and play video games. But we can't even have fun days for streaming because of how much fucked up bullshit happens every single day in the news, thanks to this administration and the fascist regimes of other countries. I have another video for you, I guess. The human race cannot exist without conflict and suffering, and that is why we are already doomed to extinction. Well, that's not true, because we literally developed as a species due to not conflict, by literally working together through community. And then we fell back onto violence to protecting our resources. Has the USA ever done something out of moral consideration? No. I'm trying to honestly think, because freeing the slaves wasn't a moral reason, it was political. Medical research was necessity and political. The drug prices going down is never moral. It's about costs or public opinion. Unions formed as a result of the state realizing that this was just going to escalate, so they had to allow it, and corporations digging in their heels for the long haul. We actually ended up losing public rail due to the influence of the automotive industries. We're actually incapable of moving forward with clean technologies because of the influence of oil and gas. So yeah, no, I don't think America has ever done anything for altruistic reasons. I want to make a documentary and I'm experimenting with editing. And that's the video? All right, I guess. Our medical research is often extremely unethical, right? And for profit. Like, let's not forget that. All right, so
תכסחו אותם כמה שיותר, שלא להשאיר מהם זכר. שלא הם, לא אמא שלהם, לא הילדה שלהם, לא התינוקות שלהם. אסור להם לחיות, לחיות.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty on fucking point. We should watch that tomorrow, though, because that is a tomorrow. Oh, wait, no. That's right. We're not streaming tomorrow because tomorrow's Christmas Eve. We'll probably play that on the next Wednesday that we stream, though. But I just realized it's almost 10 o'clock, so what do we, oh, here we go.
Angie looks a little fussed.
So it might not be political per se, but Jake Paul is a raging racist and white supremacist, a raging piece of garbage, a scammer, a fraudster, somebody who is preying on vulnerable, insecure men, and has built an entire career of grift on being a pro boxer by paying professional boxers to lose their fights, except for Anthony Joshua, who did us all a solid and broke his jaw in 2 places, functionally ending his career. So, this is a highlights reel of that.
Straight in here, look at it reeling.
Right hand by Joshua. He's landing punches. What is this? I mean, they blame Joshua, but it's what? The referee, it's Jake Paul that's doing this.
Rough tactics gotta stop, okay? The fans didn't pay to see this crap, okay?
Amen.
You're gonna fight, but fight within the rules.
Paul's hands are down. Paul unwinds and catapult right hand to the left by Paul. Paul looking to make it a fight now.
Under the body with the right hand for Anthony Joshua. There's a big left now.
Text messages are lighting up.
Honestly, this is ambrosia for my soul. At no point in this fight did Anthony look stressed. At no fucking point in this fight did Anthony not look like he was in control. And also the grinning, the you know, Jake throws a punch, he catches it, or even he maybe even takes it a little bit, gets a body shot or whatever, and just doesn't even faze him. The only thing that happens is that the sweat comes off of his body. Like, this is the medicine America needs right now.
Everyone wondering what the hell is happening.
And Jake Paul with absolute fear.
Joshua, the predator, counter right.
Look, Josh is just having fun.
Goes down again. Man, he's tired.
He needs to keep moving them feet like he was in the early rounds, but it's hard to do that.
Right uppercut. It's amazing that Paul is still standing, taking the right
And Jake's
uppercut.
really doing that, really?
Not that much is going to happen.
And it almost, oh, there's a left hook. Oh, my goodness! And down goes Paul.
Jake Paul credit for stepping in there in the first place, going 6 rounds. All those people
Yeah,
that
that's the face of a man who just realized he fucked up and that he tried bribing an actual fighter and that failed. He's like, oh shit, I gave this man $40 million to beat my ass. And again, Anthony Joshua, I guess they keep referring to him by his last name, Joshua. Joshua was literally was fighting as if he was teaching a boxing class to teenagers and Jake Paul was some hoodlum that came in off the street. It's like, oh, you want to join my ring? Great. Happy to have you. Hey, let's do 8 rounds since you're a tough guy. And then just beat the shit out of him for 6 rounds straight until he decided to finally end it once he saw the fear finally seep into Paul's body and soul. Because Jake was still cocky. He was like, and then started realizing, oh wait, no, I fucked up. And then once he truly saw that he was going to lose this fight and knew that no amount of money was going to pay or buy or undermine Anthony Joshua's delivery of punishment, then and only then did Anthony finish the fight. That is poetry. That's, oh, I'll fight you, but I'm gonna destroy your soul. I'm gonna make you lose the will to fight, and then I'm going to break you. And that's all he did. He was like, oh, are we ready yet? Da-da-da. Nope. Okay. Oh, you still got some fight in you? Da-da-da. All right. Hey, you still got some. Oh, wait. There it is. That's the. Oh, that's the. Oh, is that the. Oh, yeah. That's the fear I've been looking for. Pow! Anthony Joshua is an American hero. Once I'm in Congress, I'm going to put in that this man gets a fucking medal. And if I can't get him a medal while I'm in Congress, when I'm president, the first medal I'm giving out is the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Anthony Joshua, especially if he takes out Logan next. Chef's kiss. Yeah, they all have like 2 first names. I don't get that, but you know, whatever. Also, who would want to fight Anthony? He's 6'6" and a fucking unit. Like, look at this man. That is a massive man, and you're gonna do that face to him, and then what? A few seconds later, getting the shit kicked. Literally, 157, 32. So that was what, 25 seconds later? So he went from to 25 seconds later. That's the catharsis we needed. Yeah. 245 pounds, 6'6", peak physical condition. I would only get into the ring with Anthony Joshua if it was a charity event, points only, and light sparring. Light sparring. And even then, I'd probably still walk away with bruises. Like, no thanks. You can ordain me and his wedding. Hey, I'm sure you and a bunch of other men, women, and they, thems are lining up. So if you come out on top of that, absolutely. No, I'm just saying, like, there would have to be so many rules of me not dying before I would step into the ring with that guy. That guy's a monster. Which I think is a happy high note to end the stream on. So, thank you all for joining me on the stream. Thank you all for being great supporters, lovely people. Thank you for our new viewers, Space Marathon. Thanks for joining the stream. I hope you had a good time. Like I said earlier, but I guess I should have mentioned in the beginning, and I guess it's probably obvious, but we will not be streaming Christmas Eve or Christmas Day because of obvious reasons. So we won't be back until the 30th. And then it's back to normal. We'll do the normal stuff. Wait, I guess 1st would be Thursday. We'll probably stream on New Year's Eve because the only big draw there is the dropping of the ball at midnight. So, anywho, I hope y'all had a great time. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel. Share it with your friends, family, and neighbors, right? Have a great holiday season. Try to stay sane out there. The world is a crazy place. It is on fire, especially if you're in America. But on that note, we are fighting back. We are building a platform. And we are in this thing to win it. So, have a great holiday, and see you next week. Your President Samuel Ronan, out.